Hello everyone, Alex Trujillo from FlightScope here again this week. Thank you very much for joining us. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the FlightScope FSVX app. So this app has been one of my favorites since the very beginning. Very versatile app, gives you a lot of great functionality and also gives you the ability to connect it to multiple units. So I'm going to take you guys through the applications. If you have any questions, feel free to ask the questions down in the Ask a Question section. If anybody wants to come on and ask a question live, let me know in the chat. So here we go. FSVX. First thing we'll do is we're going to go ahead and start in the settings. You have your device settings as well as your player settings. Go into device settings, and then you're going to have your modes of operation. Now, depending on the unit that you connect to, the modes of operation might be different. In this case, I would be connected to an X3. So we have short indoor, indoor, long indoor, and outdoor. So you make your selection there. You scroll down, you have your units as far as Imperial, Metric, Scientific. And then you also have your pressure units. That's going to be for the EO. We're going to be doing another EO webinar in the coming weeks. So we'll fill you in on more information about those parameters. Sensor to T distance. This is very important. This is your distance from the ball, from the sensor to the ball. You want to make sure that you set that up correctly. So if I were going to set up to a X3, I would put it to 120 inches, which is 10 feet. Then we have our T surface height. That is the height level difference between the radar and the ball. So for example, if the radar is on flat ground and the ball is on a 1-inch mat, your T surface height would be 1 inch. I'm going to set this down to 0. As we would be outdoors. You have your sleep timeout. You can go all the way down to a minute or up to 60. I have mine set for 60. Then we have our EO normalized conditions as well as our local weather conditions. If we enter into EO, you can see that this will be updated because my device has cellular data. My information is always manually being or automatically being updated. Under local weather conditions, this is where you can make any adjustments. This is where you can also manage your locations. So for example, if I wanted to hit my drop down, you can see all my different locations I can select from, and I can use current location as well. So this is the nice thing about having cellular data on your device. I have a question from Paul in the chat that says, do you need to set the T surface height to 0 if hitting a driver off of a T? Correct. You do not have to enter a surface height for hitting a ball off the T if you have driver selected. The radar can see the ball on the T. Alrighty, we'll keep scrolling down into our video settings. This is where you can set your pre and post impact on your videos. I actually like to set my videos to 2 and 1. So 2 seconds prior to impact, 1 second after impact, but you can adjust that here in these settings. Surface type, soft, medium, and hard. So surface type is what's going to be used for your roll distance. So carry distance outdoors, for example, on an X3 is measured all the way till it lands. And then the surface type will use a calculation based on soft, medium, or hard for your roll distance and then give you a total distance. Height above sea level. So this is actually an important parameter. And people ask, well, if the EO is implemented into the software, why do I need to put a height above sea level? It's important to enter where you are as far as height above sea level so that you can, the radar or the software, I'm sorry, can understand the lift and drag coefficients of your environment. So for example, if I'm hitting balls in Colorado at 5,000 feet, I just want to input that in here so the software knows, hey, this is where we're hitting from. I have asked the developers to look at making this automatic. So if you do have cellular data, you can actually just pull it from the cloud and input your height above sea level if you want to do it automatically like that, but you can also enter it manually. So it is important that you input where you are. I'm currently at about 100 and actually I'm probably about 60 feet above sea level, which is not much. Alrighty, we have our operator listener mode. So operator is the person who will be controlling the device and the software, the listener can be an additional device. So for example, if I had another iPad with my VX app on it, I can connect to it as listener, and I can gather all that information as well. I can't control the radar, but I can at least receive the information. We have advanced settings. This is where you can come in and create and restore backup. So this is an important feature, especially the creating a backup. So let's say that you're going to maybe get a new iPad. What you want to do is you want to come in here and hit create a backup. And what that do is it's going to send all your information to myflightscope.com. It's going to store it. And when you open your new iPad and you set up your account, you download your app, then you can come in here and restore the database so that you don't lose any of the information that's on your iPad. Is a T. So we have a question from Johan Emmelman. Alex is, the T is on a 1-inch mat. Must the surface height be changed? Johan, no. If the only thing the radar wants to know is what is the ground level difference between the radar and the ball. So, or the surface that you're hitting from. So for example, if the radar is on the ground and I am hitting off of a 1-inch mat, my T surface height will be 1 inch. Now, if on that 1-inch mat, I put a T in the ground, I select driver, and I hit the ball off the T, I do not need to input the height of the T because the radar knows that you're hitting a driver, so it knows that you're going to be hitting it off a T. So the T surface height is the ground level difference between the radar and where the ball is being hit, or the surface. You have your pressure mat settings. Those for those of you who have body track here. You have your focus band settings for those of you that have focus band. And then we come down to our club analysis, face and path, and face to target. So these two parameters, face to path and face to target, they used to be displayed singularly in the application. Now they're displayed side by side on the bottom bar, and they're also displayed on the table. But here you just have the option of selecting face to path or face to target for when you go into your 2Ds, which I'll show you here in a little bit. Real-time landing area display, that's just going to show you basically the trajectory of the ball landing in the software in real time. Show measure data. This is a good tool to use, for example, if you're indoors. If you have your show measure data on, what will happen is you'll get a yellow line for everything that is measured, and then a red line for anything that's calculated. So if you're hitting indoors, you're going to see a very little short trajectory of yellow, which is measured, and then red for what was calculated. If you don't want to see those two colors, then you can just turn it off. Also, you can use show measure data on if you're like on a range that has some type of elevation drop, so down or up. You can actually see with your X3 how far the ball is being tracked and at what point the tracking cuts off, especially for the downhill ranges. But for the most part, your X series models are going to track the ball to the horizon of the unit, and then anything past that will be calculated to a flat carry. So next we have our firmware version. So if I'm connected to a radar, you're going to have a number in there, and then also your software version. So this version is 5.16 and also gives me the release date. And then last but not least, we have a send feedback to support team. This function is actually very useful if you're having any issues with your software or anything that feedback or anything you'd like to give. You can actually click on send. And in here, you can actually type what your feedback is or any issues that you might be having. Sometimes if you call support, they might ask you to fill this out. And what this does, it actually sends all your log files to our developers, and then they can research to see any information they might need as to what the problem could be. So, and again, if you have any feedback you want to send, you can do it through this channel as well. So that covers our settings. We're going to go back into our menu screen and cover the different options we have here. So the first option is going to be our full swing and ball tracking. So in this mode, the radar will be tracking the golf ball. And again, I'm I'm going to side on the side of the X3. So with the X3, the radar will, the software in the radar will be tracking the ball until it lands or until it reaches the horizon of the unit. It'll also be tracking everything about the club. In a launch mode, this mode was designed so that it can be used as a, let's call it a launch monitor. So as soon as the golf ball is hit, you will get displayed data, and then your trajectories will basically be calculated based on those initial launch conditions. So this mode was done for those who just maybe want to rapid fire on the range. Maybe you're only looking at ball speed, club speed, launch angle. Those numbers can be provided pretty quickly, and we don't have to wait for all of the tracking to be done. Next, we have swing training. In swing training mode, what you can do is you'll set everything up as normal. You'll select your club, and in swing training mode, you will swing the club in front of the radar without hitting a golf ball. So all you'll do is you'll stand in front of your radar, you'll take swings down the target line, and it'll give you your horizontal and vertical swing planes, and this, and as well as your club speed. And this is used for just maybe if somebody's working on their path, maybe working on speed, they can do that. We are going to be doing an update where if you're going to be swinging like either, true speed clubs or super speed sticks, you can actually go into swing training mode and get your speeds for your drills. And then last but not least, here we have our review sessions. This is where you can come in and see all of the sessions that you've recorded, and then you can go back into a session that you might want to look at some data for. So I'll just pick a session here and we'll get into a session. Questions. We have a few questions on here. We have a question from Max that says, will the X3 ever get the ability to know the strike location on the club? Max, I don't know what the answer is on that. I know our developers have looked at it. I know that we are looking into a solution, but it probably will be done with an additional face-on device to get a true actual measurement of where the ball is striking on the club, because there is some fallacies as to a radar from behind being able to accurately detect where the ball is striking on the face. And then a question from Rick. It says, instead of saying tee surface height, why not say ball surface height? Good comment, Rick. I think it's just the terminology that we've used for a very long time. But thank you for the comment. I will send it over to the developers. Okay, so moving right along here. So this is our main menu screen, or our main screen, should we say, in the VX app. There's a lot to cover. First thing that we want to identify is on the top right-hand portion of the screen, you have what we call our screen map, which is our 4 squares. If I click on those 4 squares, it gives me all of my available menus. Now, in my menus, I'm going to have 3D trajectory, grouping, club analysis. All right, so this is the menu screen. First screen we'll talk about is 3D trajectory. In the 3D trajectory screen, this is where you're going to see all of your data parameters on what we call the bottom bar, which you can scroll left or right. And then you have the ability of adding 5 parameters on the right-hand side. Now, to change these parameters on the right-hand side, you can do 2 things. One, you can grab the parameter and swipe to the right. That will remove it. And then you can select any other parameter from the bottom bar, double-click that parameter, and then it'll bring it up on your list. And again, you can have up to 5 quick reference parameters on the right-hand side. What some of you might notice now is that on that bottom side of the bottom bar, to the left of it, there's a little trash can icon. That now gives us the ability to be able to delete a shot without having to go into the table screen, and we can delete that shot right from our menu, or from our 3D trajectory screen. Also on the left side of that screen, we have our little gear icon. This gear icon will take us into configuration so that we can check whether we are in what mode we're in. Are we indoors? Are we outdoors? What our surface type is. You can see that under our gear section. Any questions, please make sure to get them down on the Ask a Question section. I'm going to try to go through all of our questions here today. Okay, then once you're in this section here, let's say that now you want to change the club. What you can do is up on the top where it says your club. So in this example, 8-iron, I can double click 8-iron. It's going to bring me to my golf bag, and then I can select the next club that I want to go to from there. So I'm going to select driver, and then I'm going to hit continue. And as you can see, your golf bag has your clubs. You can edit, you can delete, you can add new clubs. From there, I'm going to take you back into our screen map, and we're going to go into our grouping screen. Our grouping screen is going to show you a single club, or it's going to show you all clubs. In this scenario here, I selected all, and then you can see my driver as well as my 7-iron. Now, in order to have a grouping for a particular club, you do have to have at least 3 shots or more. And that's why here you see some clubs that only have maybe 1 or 2 shots. There isn't an ellipsis or a circle around those shots because you need to have 3 shots to get the average. Then next, we're going to go to the club analysis screen. In the club analysis screen, this might look a little opposite to you guys. This session was with a left-handed golfer, as you can see the name. But here you have your 3D screens where you can scroll and see your path, your face, vertical, horizontal swing planes, angle of attack, etc. Maybe you want to see the D plane in 3D. You can also do that here. This is really good visuals for your students if you're trying to explain to them what the D plane looks like and from different views. You have a 2D screen, which the first one will be your face to target. There you can see club path, horizontal launch, and face. If you swipe to the left, you'll get your dynamic loft, your vertical launch, and your angle of attack. You swipe one more time, you'll see your spin and spin access. Swipe one more time, you'll get your speed profiles. We had a nice little webinar on this a couple of weeks ago. And then you have your acceleration profiles. You have single as well as you have your all. From there, if we go back into our screen map, you have an option to go into your focus analysis on the right there. And then on the bottom left, you have 2D trajectory. 2D trajectory will show you trajectories from the side and from above in a single view or an all view. Really good screen to just kind of see, hey, are my ball flights, my trajectories for a particular club, are they kind of within the same window? As you can see here, Bubba was hitting different types of shots. He hit some low, he hit some high, but it's a really good visual, not only to see the trajectory, but also an overhead view of what the trajectory or the flight pattern looked like. Back to the screen map, we got our dashboard. This is one of my favorite screens. In the dashboard screen, you have the option of selecting as many parameters you want, or you can have down to 3 parameters. So for example, right now, if I wanted to remove one of these parameters, let's say I wanted to get rid of angle of attack. All I do is I double click and that data parameter will go away. Now, if I want to add another data parameter, I just simply go down to my bottom bar, double click, and it will add my data parameter up to the top. And I can add all of the parameters on here up to my squares. So you can just see how it's really neat. The other thing I can do is I can press and hold one of these parameters and just move it around in the order of my dashboard screen. Really like this option. The other really cool thing is that if I'm hitting balls outdoors, every time I hit a shot, it's going to take me to the trajectory screen. It'll show me the trajectory and then bring me back to whatever screen I was on. I mentioned in our previous webinar last week that we are looking to consolidate all of these apps. Mostly all of this functionality will go into our FS Golf app. But in that application, you're going to have the option of either staying on your trajectory screen or staying on your dashboard screen or having the vice versa. So I really like this screen. This is probably the screen that I use the most when I'm working with tour players. Then you have your table screen. table screen is where it's going to plot down all of your information. You have the detailed version, which will show you every single club or every single shot for every single club with an average and a deviance. And then you also have the summary function, which will just list out the clubs that were hit and then all of the data parameters, all of the averages for those data parameters. I like to use this screen once you've maybe gone through a session with a student or a client. You can come in here, you can screenshot this, or you can just share it with them. And it's just a nice little template to have so that they know actually how far they're averaging on their carry distances for these particular clubs. Then we're going to go back to our 3D trajectory screen. And then on the left-hand side of the screen towards the tree line there, you're going to see that there's three little striped lines. If I click on that, it opens up my tools. And from my tools here, I have a few options. I can view and edit notes. I can publish this session. I can export to CSV, or I can also use our video menu. The video menu actually gives you the ability to capture a new swing or import a video. Really good functionality to have on the VX app. However, I do recommend that if you are going to be videoing, that you check out the FS Video app or the FS Golf app, because that is designed more for the videoing side of things. However, you can capture a new swing here, or you can go, obviously you're seeing my desk there, I'm sorry about that. You can go and see videos that have already been taken. So I can come in here, I can review this video, I can hit play, it'll show me my video. I can also compare, and I can put another video side by side, and then it'll play them back. Now, again, if you're going to be looking at videoing capabilities, I would say the FS Video app or FS Golf, just because they have a little bit more functionality from that side, but you do have that option of doing it in VX as well. Okay, I'm going to take a few questions. Question here from Paul Bryan. It says, how do you get to the screen map? Sorry. Okay, so the screen map is top right-hand side of the screen, right to the left of where you see disconnected. Those 4 squares, that's our screen map. Okay, we have a question from Joel Pera. It says, after the app is consolidated, will the X2 still be supported on it? Yes, sir. We will continue to support the X2. I just want to make something clear for everyone. As some of these units get older, you have your Kudus and your Primes and your X2s. It's not that we're going to stop supporting you or your unit. You guys are clients for us for a lifetime. We really focus on making lifelong partnerships and customers. What happens as far as the hardware goes is that if something does happen to your hardware, we might not be able to replace a particular part because it might not be made anymore. But as far as supporting you and your software and your units, we're never going to stop doing that. A question from Paul says, does the data from a particular session upload to myflyscope.com automatically, or do you have to select a specific option to do so? So Paul, all of the numerical data that is captured will always be uploaded to myflyscope.com as long as your device, your iPad or your computer or your cell phone, have internet connection and it can push to the cloud. What will not be uploaded automatically at the moment is videos. So for example, if you're using the FS Golf app, you do have to manually share those videos up to the cloud. But we are looking to making that process automated. However, there is a subscription or a charge for the uploading of videos because it does obviously take up space on the cloud. But all of your numerical data always will go to myflyscope.com as long as you have an internet connection. Sam has a question as to what devices are supported at the moment. So for VX, you have X2, X2 Elite, X3, all the XI series. Alrighty, we have another question here from Rick in the Ask a Question section. It says, in swing trading mode, how do we change the club that is shown? I only have a club speed, V plane, H plane when I open swing training and can't find any other parameters. So let's go into swing training. I'll show you guys what it looks like. So the reason why you only see these three parameters is because there isn't any ball information and a golf ball isn't being hit. So the radar is only looking at the club speed and the vertical and horizontal movement of that club. So your horizontal swing plane and your vertical swing plane. Because there isn't a golf ball, we can't give you, for example, angle of attack or launch angle or any of those things. So that's why we only strictly break it down to these three parameters that are club parameters where you can actually just work on your swing. So for example, like your vertical swing plane and your horizontal swing plane, actually horizontal swing plane to be more precise, is basically your club path. But because there is no ball, there is no angle of attack, we don't state club path, we state horizontal swing plane. So hope that helps you there, Rick. And again, it's just to work on the direction of that club and even the speed of it. I'm going to go right back into my session here. Let's open up. We were at, I guess any session works. Let's use this one here. Okay, so now, if you guys notice also on the bottom bar, bottom left-hand side of that bottom bar, once we get switched over to a driver, you have how many shots have been hit. So right now I'm on shot 2 of 6. I can tap one time to go to the next shot, or I can double tap to open up my scroller and I can go to, for example, shot 6, and then I can get there. So that's how you can toggle between shots. Now we'll go back to the top right-hand corner. You're going to see a little icon view. It looks like a overhead view of a golf course or of a tee. If I tap on that, all it will do is simply change the views that I'm seeing my trajectories. Right below that icon, you're going to see a little arrow that points down. This is a really cool feature that a lot of people aren't aware of. It's one of those little hidden menus of the VX app. If you click on that, you get the option to do something called loading a comparison data or loading a session. So what I'll do is I'll go, for example, so load comparison data. It's going to take me to my review a session. So let's say I want to review, let's say a different session. So I go in here and I say compare. I have the option of comparing or overlaying. I'll show you the two. And so now what I can do is I can put two sessions side by side. It could be the same session or it could be a different session. So here you have Bubba and Bryson. I can right, left on the top of the screen to the left side of single, you're going to see a little club icon. If I click on that, it'll actually overlay both sessions. So you'll see that Bryson's shot was in blue, Bubba's shot was in yellow. So you can put them one on top of the other. Or again, you can go back to just comparing them side by side. Really, really cool feature, especially if, let's say, you're, maybe somebody's working with two different sets of irons, or they're trying to, you're a fitter and you're trying to give them some numbers on two different clubs. You can basically have, let's say, driver 1 set up here, go back into the same session, driver 2 set up on the right side, and then you can compare them from there. And that is to include all of the screen maps as well. So you can see the different views there. Question from Sam, I'm sorry. How to change handedness? Sam, that's a great question. In the VX app, you actually cannot change the handedness. The handedness gets tied into the profile when you create it. So for example, when you come into, and I'll show you that process. I'm going to go back. I'm going to back out here. I'm going to go change user. And then I'm going to go to create a new account. When I'm creating the account, that is when I have to select my handedness. And that handedness gets tied to that email. However, on myflyscope.com, you should be able to revert that. It could only be done through myflyscope.com. One other thing to remember is that the email is really the only thing that we have to basically make your account unique. So if you are creating an account and you accidentally make an error on the email and you go through the process and create the account, if there was an error on that email, you'll just have to create a new account, because there's no way for us to actually change that email, because that email is very unique. It's like your unique identifier. So just things to know when you're creating accounts for clients. Alrighty, let's see what are the questions we have here in the Ask a Question section. What is the shortest shot you can hit? I'm sorry, Edward. What is the shortest shot you can hit with X3 and recommended settings in the VX app? Edward, I mean, I've hit shots down to like, probably 5-10 yards. It just depends. I mean, those shots that are that small or that short, you might not get all the data. That's more of a very specific setup with, for example, short game. But you can hit, I mean, down to 15-20 yards. I do it with an X3 all the time, no problem. I don't do anything in the setup other than I just select that I'm hitting a wedge, for example. The only thing the radar cares about is three things. Am I looking at a driver, or let's call it a wood? Am I looking at an iron, or am I looking at a wedge? Because the shapes are different. So the radar prepares itself for the head shape that it should be coming through the radar zone. But other than that, as long as you have your setup at 10 feet for an X3, for example, for center to T, and you have all that input in your settings, should be good to go. You shouldn't have any issues there. Question from Justin says, hey, Alex, can you show us the optimizer? Also, is there a way to change the type of ball you're using? Absolutely, Justin. So we'll go back into a session. Once you're in the session, for the use of the optimizer, you have to be under a driver. And I'm guessing you're talking about the driver optimizer, because we do have two optimizers. We have the driver optimizer and the environmental optimizer. I'm going to show you both. So in the driver optimizer, you have driver selected. You're going to get the function of optimizer on the top right-hand side of the screen. I'll let the software catch up. And it's not the software, guys. It's just the screen sharing connection that's a little slow today. And then once you're in the optimizer, there we go. Gary Koch, I see your question, and I'm going to answer it as soon as I get to this optimizer, because that's a very good question. So can everybody see the optimizer? There we go. All right. So in the driver optimizer, what you're looking at here is it gives you the ability to optimize your driver settings for either carry or total distance. I like to use optimize for carry, and I always use a medium surface type. Okay. First line on the left, you see what's called club average. So that means the average club speed, the average ball speed, so on and so forth. And then the tunable section gives you your highest club speed with your highest ball speed. So we basically take, okay, this is what the person can basically get to, because obviously you've produced those numbers. And based off of those numbers, we're going to do an optimization. So the first thing I'll optimize is smash factor. So I'll take that scroller and pump it up to 150. So now I'm saying that if I swing the club at 122 miles an hour with 183 ball speed and a 1.5 smash, I should, with a 15-2 launch and a 2,500 spin, I should get 305 carry. So you're looking at about a 15-yard difference in carry. But let's say, hey, maybe I don't want to launch it at 15. I want to launch it down to, let's say, maybe 12.8, and I want to spin it 23. Well, you can adjust those scrollers, and then it gives you what it would look like under your carry and total distances. You can also hit reset, and it'll basically bring everything back to square one. But the biggest thing to optimize, I think, is the smash. So telling the player, hey, your average smash is 147, so you're obviously not, really not right on the button. If we go to 1.5 and we can get a 1.50 smash with your vertical launch at 15 and your spin rate at 2600, you're looking at about a 15-yard difference. Really good screen to show people, hey, you're capable of this. I mean, you've produced 122 mile an hour club speed, so that's in there. If we can get you at that speed, and these smash and vertical launch and backspin, this is what you can do. So that is the driver optimizer. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you the environmental optimizer. I'm not going to go super deep into the EO because we do have a particular webinar on this. We will be doing it again in the next coming weeks. Henry and myself will be on and we'll be taking you guys through the EO again. But this is where you can basically see it. So if you guys see the cloud that says on, little green cloud with a check mark, if I click on that, it gives me my current location. So what is the environment where I am currently at? So for example, my density altitude is 2212. My height above sea level is 126 feet above sea level. My mercury, my temperature, my humidity, my wind speed, and my wind direction. Okay. That will be updated every 5 to 15 seconds as long as you have a cellular connection. If I now open up my EO, now I can make changes to this. So for example, if I took this particular shot here where you see the carry distance Bubba hit it was 287. But now I'm going to say, okay, what if I were now at, let's say, 3,000 feet above sea level, at 75% humidity with, 50% humidity, 75-degree temperature with no wind, you can see that there would be basically a 304 carry distance. So you'll see it come along here. There you go. So that's basically, in a nutshell, you're taking your current shot and you're able to change the environmental conditions on it to see what would happen in a different environment. And we give you two ways of seeing that optimization. One is what we call the trajectory, where we're basically doing the optimization of the environment and showing you what the projected trajectory would be. And then we have something called the D-plane optimization, which you would see your trajectory based on only the D-plane parameters. Okay, so it's going to take face and path, angle of attack, and your dynamic loft, and it's going to look at, okay, this is what the ball would have done based on solely D-plane, no environmental conditions involved as far as affecting it left or right. So, and again, we're going to be doing an environmental optimizer webinar with Henry in the coming weeks where we can take you step by step into all of this and how all of this actually came about. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to get to Gary's question. He has a really good comment. So he says, Gary Koch says, hi, I use my own account for all of my clients. Do I have to create an account for all of my lessons? If I want to see the data, can I, or will it be sent to them on their own email address? Gary, let me walk you through that process. So I'm going to go back to our home screen, and you're going to see that on my home screen, it says, welcome US sales. So that sales account, that's my account. Give it a second here. It's going back to the main screen. All right, guys. So you see where it says welcome US sales. So that is my account. So I never log out of my account. That's my account. Any sessions that I do with Bryson or Bubba or whoever it may be, what I do is I create a player account, or I create a separate account for them. How do you go about doing that? Well, there's two ways. One, I can go into player list and I can find a player, or I can create a player. So if the player isn't on my list, then I'm just simply going to create a player and it's going to put them into my player list. And that's where I told you that when you're creating the account, you're going to need to put in the first name, the last name, the email address. You want to create a password for them. I make all of mine generic, and then I let the player change it once they go into myflyscope.com. So like I make all my passwords for their account, flight scope or password. And then when the player gets their email, then they can change their password to be private for them. You select their gender, their handedness, left or right-handed, very important. And then you can put their handicap if you like, and then they accept the terms and conditions. So how the process works is, let's say, Gary, that maybe I'm going to come get a lesson from you. So Gary it'll say, welcome, Gary. You're going to go into full swing. You're going to hit start, and then you're going to select me from the player list. And if I'm not on that list, so for example, I'm right there, US sales. So you click on US sales, you go into your session, and now all of that information, when you're done with them, all of that data is going to automatically go to their myflightscope.com account. So they're going to see everything that you did with them as far as the numbers go. And then you have all of their information on your device. So it is very important that you create an account for all of your players, especially if you want to be sending them information. If you don't, then you can just create demo accounts, and then, it's just going to go up to a demo account that you've created, a fake account or whatever. But we do recommend that you create an account for all of your players. It makes it very easy to share data with them, and also it's more personalized for them. So great comment, great question, Gary. All righty, guys. So wait, I got 2 more questions here. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm done with that question. Question from Edward. It says, is a slow swing option then option taken out of the VX? Slow swing is still in there, Edward. If you go into your configuration or into your settings, you'll see that slow swing speed mode is on. You want to turn slow swing speed on anytime you have someone that swings a driver probably slower than 80 miles an hour. So, if they're swinging their driver 80, they're probably swinging everything else a little slower. You probably want to turn your slow swing speed mode on for that. Or if you're working on any like really finesse shots or really slow shots where the club and the ball are going to be traveling speed-wise very closely to each other, you want to make sure that you take that feature off. Sam has a question. How do you change your default bag? So to do the bag, you just double click on the golf bag, or I'm sorry, the club that you have selected, and then you can just change the name of the bag. You can also load a different bag. So I have different bags set up. You can set up bags for all of your different players. You can set up a right-handed set, a left-handed set, whatever you like. You can do that from there. Joel, would the slow swing speed be good for beginner or child just learning? Yes, I do recommend it, especially, like I said, if they're not swinging the club very fast. If you see that they're not swinging very fast and you're missing data, turn that on, and most of the times that's going to correct your problem. Listen, guys, thank you very much for your time. If you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot us an email at sales@flyscope.com. If you have any support questions, you can go to support@flyscope.com. And again, check out our webinar. We're going to have a Q&A on Friday with Henry, and then we're going to be scheduling another environmental optimizer for you guys. Thank you so much for your time. Greatly appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next FlyScope webinar.